RockinRantRadio.com.
Yo, it's me. It's DDP. Self-high five.
Tommy Boy here, Rockin' Rant Radio. What is up, Maniacs? It's me, hanging and banging. We have a very special guest on the phone. I'm very excited about this interview. You know him as former WCW World Champion, the master of the Diamond Cutter, and of course the king of Bada Bing. But to me, he is my yoga and pretty much life guru. We're talking to Diamond Dallas Page. DDP, what's going on, man?
That's a pretty strong introduction.
Nice. Well, yeah, I'm glad to have you here because my listeners know that I've been doing your program, the DDP Yoga program, for about 2 months now, and from being injury-prone and riddled with injury to feeling fantastic, dropping 25 pounds. So tell our listeners right here, what is really DDP Yoga? How did you come across it, and where did you start this program?
Well, it's a long answer, but I'll try and give you the shortest version I can. The people who don't know who I am or my career, you need to know that I didn't start wrestling until I was 35 years old, well, really 35 and a half. And that's when guys are most times are retiring. Edge just retired at 34. So to start at that time is, it's crazy. And everybody said it was impossible, but I did it. And my career finally actually took off when I was 40. And that was 1996, right as the Monday Night Wars were starting to boom and wrestling was exploding on cable television. Out of the top 10 shows, top 5 shows were WCW and WWF. We had top 5 shows on television, on cable television. And, 97 and 98, I was on top of the world, rated number 4 wrestler according to Pro Wrestling Illustrated. I was living the dream at a different level, and then I ruptured my L4 and L5 so badly that 3 doctors said my career was over. Now, do you know what the L4 and L5 are? Do you know what that is?
I know it's a pretty major part of your spine.
Yeah, it's the bottom lower part that hooks into the coccyx bone. It's really like the center of the universe. When someone says my back is killing me, 9 times out of 10, it's their L4, L5, or both. Well, when I ruptured the discs, because between every vertebrae, a bone, there is a disc, and it's like a, for lack of a better word, a jelly donut. And what happens when you squish a jelly donut? Mm-hmm. It splatters all over. Well, that's what happens to the fluid inside your disc when you rupture the discs. So, it was excruciating, and my whole life changed right there. And my doc was like, listen, you had a great run. No one ever did what you did, but your time is done. You need to retire, or you're going to be crippled. That's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really want to believe that. And I just signed a 3-year multi-million-dollar deal, and it wasn't as much as it was the money. It wasn't the money. I just finally started to live the dream at a different level, and all the hard work was paying off. So I just kept going to rehab, and I figured it's going to get better, but it didn't. So my wife at the time, we were still married, and Kim was like, why don't you try doing yoga to heal your body? Like, yoga? I'm not doing yoga. I was like, F that, and long story short, after a while, though, that's all I really could do. So she got me down into our little, room that we kept warm, and put the VHS tape in there, not even a DVD, VHS, and, threw that in there. And I got to tell you, I was amazed how much flexibility and core strength started to come to me in a relatively short time. In less than 3 weeks, I was starting to feel stronger, more flexible. I couldn't really do the moves because the video I was doing, they didn't show modifications, so I had to figure it out. And, I started right away, like, I wasn't into the whole spiritual mumbo-jumbo that yoga is, and it's really fine for people who dig that. I'm not putting it down. It's just not for me. So I got rid of all that stuff. And I just started doing some yoga moves and mixed them with my rehab moves. And then I added an old school calisthenics, push-ups, squats, crunches. But I did them in a slow burn movement. Instead of just lowering, I'd lower for 3 seconds or 5 or 10. eventually it went through, and I'd hold for 10 and then come up for 10. But it started at 3. It started on my knees. Eventually I got off my knees. Eventually 5 became 10. 3 became 5. 5 became 10. Sets of 10. Now I'm getting stronger. I'm a couple months into this, and, I got back on the Stairmaster because I had to get my cardio. And I did my workout. I always wear a heart monitor because I don't want to train too hard. In my 40s, I definitely don't want to train too hard. I don't want to take the chance of blowing something else out on my body, especially my back. So I got off the Stairmaster, got on the mat, started working out, and about 20 minutes in, I was doing those push-ups, and I looked at my heart monitor, and it said 140. That's 140 beats a minute. I'm like, how is that possible? I've been off the Stairmaster for 20 minutes. And then I realized it's not being on a Stairmaster or on a bike or running. It's engaging the muscle. Think about it. When you run, you're using every single muscle in your foot, your calves, your quads, your glutes. You're using every single muscle dramatically depending on how fast you're running. Now, the same thing when you're biking or whatever else, you're using those muscles, and every time you engage a muscle, I found out that your heart has to beat faster to get the blood to the muscle. So what ended up happening is I ended up just standing still and just acting like I was doing curls. And I was just pulling up like I was lifting 85-pound dumbbells. And I was like, the heavier I made these things in my head, and the more I engaged my muscles, the higher my heart rate went. That's what happens if I flex my quads and my glutes and grab with my feet into the mat. Oh, my God, my heart rate kept getting higher and higher and higher. So I realized in a very short period of time that I created a zero-impact, kick-ass cardio workout that would dramatically increase your flexibility and your core strength conditioning. And to prove it, in less than 3 months, I was back in the ring. At 42, 3 doctors said my career was over. At 43, I was a heavyweight champion of the world.
Now, you went from being told you don't have a shot to being at the top. In your mind, does that help you relate to people in the DDP yoga community? Because there's a lot of unhealthy, injured, overweight people in that community, but you're like the king of the underdogs. You've really encouraged everybody on that site. Does being an underdog your whole career and not being told you don't have a shot to being at the top, does that help you in your career choice of the DDP yoga? Does it help you, bring positivity to everybody who does this? Because you are the most positive person I've ever met in my life.
Well, I think that a lot of the people I've helped on there, like disabled veteran Arthur Borman, he was walking around with knee braces and back braces and canes for 15 years. He couldn't walk without the aid of any of those braces. When I looked at it from anything's possible attitude, as long as you have the work ethic, as long as you're going to put the work in, and I help so many people, and you mentioned teamddpyoga.com. Explain that to you because you've gone on there and you've seen what it's like. Explain that to what that feeling is like on that internet website.
It really is unbelievable, man. Everybody there is so willing to help out. The positive vibes are all over the place. You interact with people. I interact with the fellow community, and it's kind of impossible to fail when you're in that atmosphere. It really is just something you can't really grasp it until you get on there and see the support from you and everybody on that site.
If you look at the people who are there, and I come from that attitude. I was never supposed to happen. Lee Marshall, one of the announcers one night, called me the anomaly. And an anomaly, I knew that in Star Trek. It's like you're watching Star Trek and you're watching this thing and you go, that's an anomaly. That shouldn't be there. An anomaly just means it should never have happened. Mm-hmm. And I should have never been able to do what I did, but I did, which only shows that it's possible. So I think that when I'm dealing with a lot of the people that I work with, who do DDP yoga, I think that because I've overcome so many adversities, it's a good example to a lot of different people. But the other side of it is I've helped people like Arthur, who's walking around on the canes and the crutches. If you guys are listening right now and you're near your computer, go to the computer and just put on ddpyoga.com.
I really hate to be all dramatic, but this program really did change my life. This program isn't for, it really is for everyone. Whether you want to gain size, whether you want to gain lose weight, whether you want to heal, whether you want to, it is for everyone. And DDP, I talked about P90X to you a couple days ago. P90X is a good program, but it really is temporary. It's not a pace you can keep for the rest of your life.
It's like I always say, that P90X workout and the Insanity, they're both good workouts. If you're an athlete that has never been beat up. You never played football when you were in high school or college, and you haven't really done any real abuse to yourself. That's a great workout, I think, for people who weren't athletes but are athletic.
Oh, absolutely. But the point I'm trying to make here is, DDP yoga you can do for the rest of your life. You don't need to worry about it. This is a program you can do every single day for the rest of your life and feel fantastic.
And that's what I'm saying, too, because a lot of their, and I'm not putting it down in any way because, like I say, it's a good workout, but their whole results are based on 60 days and 90 days. And, basically the results that they get are diet. It's what you put in your body is the reason why you get lean like that. I've got guys who have the same effect. They start out in pretty good shape to begin with because all those people on P90X, they all start out, or Insanity, they already got great bodies to begin with. They just tone them up and hit their diet really hard. But the thing that they're doing is they're having a really high-impact workout. And where are you going to be if you're here in 60 days or here in 90 days? Where are you going to be in 6 months? Where are you going to be in 9 months? Where are you going to be in 3 years? Now, it's like you said, with DDP yoga, it's a lifestyle change, it's a workout you can do the rest of your life, and I mean the rest of your life. Like I'm 56 now. I'm doing the most challenging, crazy stuff today that I've ever done in my life ever, and there's no weights. I'm not running because running would just totally. I tell people over 45, if you're going to run, why don't you just jump off the house next door? Because that's what you're doing to your back, your knees, your ankles, your hips. Impact. Again.
Man, what I'd like to know, whose body was put through the ringer more? Mine after doing the advanced DDP yoga diamond cutter workout, or yours after a night partying with Michael P.S. Hayes and Jimmy Jam Garvin, the fabulous Freebirds?
Well, a night out drinking with the Freebirds back in the early 90s was brutal on your body. I could hang because I grew up in the nightclub business and I drank quite a bit back then too. Not so much anymore, but back then, we definitely partied. We had some really good times. Those guys were a lot of fun, but I couldn't hang with them now. I couldn't go back in time and hang with them now. Nor do I want to cocktailing like that.
So, now tell me about Arthur Borman. Everyone who knows Arthur Borman in the DDP yoga community knows what his deal is, but how did you get in touch with Arthur? I want you to send me this video because it really is truly the most inspirational video I've ever seen in my life. What is Arthur Borman's story, and how did you get in touch with him?
Well, what ended up happening is back when I did my original workouts, I would send everyone an email, and say, listen, I'm not trying to sell you anything. You already bought the program. I said, I just would love to hear some feedback. And, some people didn't believe it was me, but it was, it's a grassroots company, and I sent him the email, and he sent it back really in depth. He really detailed a lot of things in there, and I was like, wow, man, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. It sounds like, you got some real issues. Can you tell me a little more about yourself? And that's where I found out that he was a disabled veteran, that he had been, been in the military for 14 years, and he was a paratrooper. And if you're a paratrooper, those guys drop 16 to 18 feet a second. They're not hang gliding coming out of the sky. Their goal is to get them to the ground as fast as possible so they don't get shot out of the sky. So they're moving at quite a speed. And really, if you're a guy who just had 20 or 30 jumps, which is your average guy who might have enlisted, for 3 to 6 years or whatever, your body's really going to feel that later on, in your 30s, 40s, 50s, etc. But Arthur had over 500 jumps and 14 years in. And he really wanted to make the 20 years, but his body was like, Uncle, we got to quit. If we don't quit, we're not going to be able to walk. And long story short, he went to retire, but then we had the first Gulf War, and when that went down, he ended up having to go to, overseas, and what ended up coming out of that is he survived a helicopter crash, and then the next time he fell out of the sky was like that old lady who fell down and didn't get back up again. And 2 botched knee surgeries later, they were sending him home permanently disabled. And because of the knees and the back, and the whole ankles, everything in his body, he had the knee braces that would strap into a back brace, and it started with 1 wraparound cane, and quickly it went to 2. And that's how he could get around. And he was told that he was never going to be able to walk again without the assistance of the braces and the canes. And I said, send me a picture so I could see what I'm looking at. He sent me this picture of this guy, 5'6", 297 pounds, who literally, he looked bad. And it wasn't the weight that bothered me. It was I could see the knee braces and the wraparound canes. So I was thinking, what am I going to do with this guy? How can he even do the workout? And I'd sent him a food plan. I have like 3 of them that come when you invest in the DDP yoga program. It isn't just workouts. It's also, an eating plan that's on 3 different levels. Because sometimes just getting the Snickers bar out of somebody's hand is a big deal, especially when you're trying to lose weight. But he needed to lose drastic amount of weight. But more than that, he needed to heal his body from the inside out. And so much of what people put in their mouths, people don't realize that what you put in your mouth is what gases your body. It fuels your body. It actually gives you the energy and the healing power to heal your body. So I had this level 3 eating plan that I sent to him. And I said, and back then there was no team DDP yoga. It was just me and whoever else I came across. And I'd have to repeat all the same stuff over and over and over again. That's what's so amazing about TeamDDPYoga.com. I talk to one person, I could be talking to 1,000 by talking to one. And their stories are shared on Team DDP Yoga. But back then it was just me and him. So I sent him the eating plan. Now, if he sends a message back to me, thank you, I'll give it a try, or I hope I can do this, or something along that line, I go, good luck. Let me know how it works out. Keep me posted. But he didn't write that. What he wrote was 3 powerful words. Actually, 4 powerful words. I can do this. I said, send me your phone number. And he sent me his phone number. It's the first time I ever called someone like that. And I got him on the phone, and we just started talking about health, fitness, goals, and what he would need to do to turn this around. And I never thought that he would do what he did, to be perfectly honest. I thought that this will get him up, get him going, help him lose, a substantial portion of the weight, take some of the wear and tear off his back and knees, and maybe he'll be able to get around with a cane. I never thought he was going to lose 130, 140 pounds. He lost 100 pounds in 6 months. Wow. But he lived the program. He started out doing it 5 days a week, 20 minutes a day. And I often tell people, if you do it 3 days a week, the workouts now are 25 minutes, the beginner ones. If you can do that 3 days a week, 25 minutes a day, it'll change the way you feel. If you do it 4 days a week, 40 minutes a day, it'll begin to change your life. You do it 5 days a week or more, and you work up 40 minutes to an hour, then you own your life. You dictate where you're going to be. Because that's what Arthur Boorman did, and he took it to a whole nother level. So he becomes the guy that says, oh, anything's possible.
Now, you got all kinds of WWE guys doing it, MMA fighters, NFL guys. Did you ever get any resistance from any of the boys? I know Chris Jericho's doing it, Zack Ryder, Santino Marella, all kinds of superstars are doing it. Did you ever get any resistance from any of the guys thinking, oh, man, this is yoga, and then they realize, damn, this is the killer workout. This is the real deal.
I think that once Chris Jericho once he started to do it, and I'll tell you how that happened. I was at Monday Night Raw. We were plugging the very best of Nitro. I was doing the one little plug they ever did for it, which just happens to be the second best-selling DVD that they've had in the last 3 years, WWE. And I was backstage with Shawn Michaels, and Shawn Michaels is actually the first guy in professional wrestling who did my workout, and he made it part of his routines. You know, he did a couple different routines, but DDP Yoga was the one that became a huge part of what he did when he was preparing to come back to the ring, and he had an amazing run. You know, he got 5 more years after back surgery. That's pretty crazy. So, wow. He said to me, you know, I heard Jericho's, you know, wants to come back, but the prognosis does not look good. He herniated his L4, and he's in a lot of pain, and, you know, none of the boys ever want to admit that, and he said you should get in contact with him. He'd probably contact you. So I followed Chris on Twitter, and we started talking, and I sent him the video that I'm going to send you. And when he saw that video, he said, would you mind sending me the program? I said, no, I want you to do it. You know, I want all the boys to do it. Well, he got it, and within 5 weeks, he called me back, and he was blown away. He said that he could not believe. He actually said, for a quote, because I was doing an article on DDP Yoga, and Chris Jericho's opening quote was, DDP's yoga changed my life. And he got addicted to it. He did it 5-6 days a week. In 5 weeks, he was 85% pain-free. In 3 months, he was 95% pain-free. And if you want to know what it'll do for your body, because DDP Yoga is the only workout that Chris Jericho is doing, look at him on a Monday Night Raw, or if you can catch him on SmackDown or a pay-per-view. At 41 years old, he is tearing up the scene. He looks amazing. He's doing crazy stuff. Chris has always been a high-impact guy when it comes to wrestling. A lot of the moves that he does are high-impact, not just on his opponent, but on himself. And, you know, he just has nothing but, he preaches like I'm paying him to do it. You know, which is really a monster honor for me that Chris, you know, talks about it all the time. He just put a tweet up the other day. He said, just got done with a kick-ass DDP Yoga photo shoot for fitness, for men's fitness, which will be out in August. And, you know, he tweets about it all the time. He's gotten Santino doing it, another huge, you know, supporter, because it helps him. It makes his body feel great. He gets them crazy, and he wasn't even doing the heart monitor cardio thing in the beginning. Now, this has become his cardio, his core strength conditioning and his flexibility training. Because when you stay flexible, you don't get hurt. That's just one of the things that goes with that. Mm-hmm. So it's plus, plus, and plus. So I look at to eventually work its way through at least half the boys. And as it goes on, and I pick up some of the older guys, the ones that are really beat up, that's where it'll really, you know, at some point they all need to do it. That's where it'll come to, you know.
Abso-freaking-lutely, man. All right, want to thank Diamond Dallas Page for hanging with us. This program, I can't say enough about it. It is literally life-changing, life-saving almost. It is life-saving. Arthur Borman wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for DDP Yoga. So thank you, Diamond Dallas Page, DDP. Anything left you want to say to our listeners tonight?
Well, I just tell anybody who wants to invest in the program, because that's what it is. It's an investment in yourself. And if you want to do that, go to ddpyoga.com. All those videos are up there on my site. There's more information than you could ever want. It's all there. It answers all the questions. But if you still have questions, go to my Twitter page, @RealDDP or @DDPYoga. I'm there. I answer all the questions that especially have anything to do with DDP Yoga. Like I say, if you want to get the program and invest in it, go to ddpyoga.com and get the program. I've got 3 different programs there, and it's all easily self-explanatory. But again, if you have any questions, you know where I'm at.
All right. Thank you, Diamond Dallas Page. Pleasure, as always, to talk to you. This guy is the real deal. The program is the real deal. Check out ddpyoga.com for more information. And if anything, just check out the Arthur Borman video. You will be inspired. I promise you. That does it for me. I'm Tommy Boy. here at Rock and Rant Radio, a Rock and Rant Radio exclusive, right here at rockandrantradio.com. Thanks for hanging out. For those about to rock, I salute you. See ya!
Self-high five.
rockandrantradio.com